Greetings, social media land. This is Ted Victor with the Broward Social Network, once again to have community conversations with you, our community in South Florida and throughout the world as well. Today is Wednesday, July the 8th at approximately 6 p.m. We're going to have a conversation about how our relationships impact our communities. Considering the times, considering the current events, we have manifestations in the streets, we have protests. We are in the era of George Floyd, even though there have been many different George Floyds, different versions of George Floyd, going back from Amadou Diallo in New York and Rodney King in California. We absolutely must have a conversations about rebuilding our communities of color in particular. And today, we're going to take a look at the family, which is the center of our communities. So over the years, I've had family members and friends talk about the absence of the man, the absence of the Black man. So I've invited 5 outstanding friends to be able to kind of flesh out this conversation with us. And you are welcome to participate on social media and bring in some questions in order to be able to help us rebuild the Black family, the relationship between Black women, Black men, or even same gender relationships. I'm open to those as well, just as long as we are able to kind of solidify our unit as a family. So in no particular order, I'm going to ask our friends to introduce themselves and to be able to begin the conversation. LaShauna Warren, please introduce yourself and welcome to the Broward Social Network. Finally, my sister, out of New York.
Thank you so much for having me, Ted. My name is LaShauna Warren. I am actually first generation New York, native New Yorker from Brooklyn. My parents, they both came from the South and they migrated here in the late 60s. So born in 1970, so that speaks for itself. So I'm here. I'm also a mom of 2, 24 and 21. I'm also an educator with the Department of Education here in New York. I have 2 master's degrees in education and in administration. I'm also a founder of a fitness company called Fleet Fit, where I'm an influencer with the ability to promote and inspire wellness within the community. So I'm here because this is a topic that's I'm really passionate about the Black family, particularly the Black man in his role in the Black family. I have been twice married and twice divorced. And so I think I bring to the table a wealth of understanding, because I think what they say, hindsight being 2020, I come to the table with an understanding that, you know, as we get older, we become wiser. And as Dr. Maya Angelou would say, you know, when you know better, you do better. So, you know, I'm here and I'm excited about this topic because I believe it is time that our community blends their voices, and there's no time like the present that we've hit a really hard reset button, I call it, with this pandemic, where we can reorganize the family. We can reorganize and having these conversations as far as what do we want family to look like. So I appreciate being here. Thank you so much, Ed.
Thank you very much. We're going to give the microphone, the virtual microphone, over to June Cole. I think I sent you all the links, so you guys are welcome to share it with your friends and family members. June Cole, introduce us to who you are and what you do, and your thoughts on this conversation briefly, because we are not going to have enough time to talk to everybody about all of the facets and the dimensions of this. Go ahead, June Cole.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is June Cole. I am a current business owner of June Cole Creative Agency, and what we do is branding and marketing, all types. I won't go into depth of what all we do, but we do many different things. In addition to our agency is now branching off into interior design and designing for your space and creating that special space. So I thought that this conversation about when you think about relationships, you have to create a space that is convenient and comfortable to build that relationship. So we're looking at that as well. I'm an educator by trade. I've been in education for a number of years, grew up in New York, but hail from Jamaica, but I know New York. I'm a New Yorker. Even though I've been living in South Florida for some years, been in education for over 25 years. with a master's degree, working on my doctorate dissertation. So I come to the table with a plethora of information that hopefully, relationship-wise, from the educational standpoint, from a design, branding, marketing standpoint, can help change the scope of where we're looking today. Thank you.
Thank you so very, very much. Karen, I can see you better now. Before you were looking a little blurry. I'm not necessarily sure what you're using. I think it's probably a cell phone because I can see it, but it's perfectly fine. Karen, please, I say this probably not enough, but I have so much love and so much respect for you with your presence and how you're active in the community. And I just want you to know once again that I really, really do appreciate you. Please introduce yourself to the platform and very quickly your thoughts on the subject. And then we have to go on to Dr. Ferrari, and then we're going to save the best for last, our therapist, our Lady Bryce. Go ahead, Karen.
Okay, well, my name is Karen Vaughn, and just a little bit about myself. I'm of Caribbean background, Jamaican descent, and I've lived in New York and in South Florida. I moved here to South Florida when I was maybe about like 10. So I grew up here in South Florida, went to school here. I did my bachelor's in marketing administration, business administration, marketing. And so I got my bachelor's in that. Then I went on and I did I went to medical school because my mom kind of forced me into that because she's a retired RN, you know, and that's all she knows is nursing from she's been like 20 years old. So she told me, why don't you do nursing, you know, or why don't you do something in the medical field, you know, because when I graduated, actually, I started working with the cruise lines. And what happened is that they relocated to California. So once that happened, she said, you know what, I told you, go into the medical field. So I went back to school. I went into radiology. I did diagnostic medical sonography. I came back and then I started working in that field. Then I went back to school again, started a master's degree, which I have not finished yet, but I actually have almost finished. I just have to do my, you know, my, what you call it, you know, my, go into the, you know, into the field actually. And that's where that's when
the practicum,
practicum, correct, internship. And that's where, you know, so once I do that, I will have a master's in mental health or health sciences.
Thank you.
And then, and of course, so what I'm doing now, I formed my own company recently, so I'm waiting on them to send the license. It's called KV Connect LLC. So it's going to be basically a public relations company. And I'm also vice president of Dorscar Capital Group, which Dr. Norman, I think, is the president. Dr. Norman, who is the head of the Black Caucus. He's president of that Dorscar Capital Group.
In Miami, Dr.
In Miami, yes. Yeah, Dr. David Dorscar is the CEO of that company.
Yes, very good friend of mine, very good friend of mine. And all of your contacts and information and accolades I would include in the description and so forth. Did you want to add one more thing before we go to Dr. Ferrari, Karen?
Well, just to say that progress is a largely suppressed story of race and race relations over the past half century. And, you know, I think that what we're talking about today is going to be very, very important because of, as you said, of what is happening now, especially with the racial tensions that, you know, that we're facing right now. And also with the COVID-19 and how it's affecting basically our community at large. So I think this is a great topic and I thank you for having me on today.
Thank you so very much. Dr. Ferrari, and then we'll go on to our therapist, George Bryce. Dr. Ferrari, thank you so much for being a sister in the fight before we even met. Thank you for having your heart in the right place. I have such admiration for people who work hard. And based on the little bit that I know about you, you are a go-getter, a hard worker. And I owe you several hugs and I will send you some digital flowers soon. So welcome.
Ted, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Ted, please allow me to thank you for the invitation. Thank you for thinking of another colleague. I take the liberty of calling you my colleague because we're pretty much in the same field as far as education is concerned, as far as, and by education, I mean educating beyond the classroom. When what you're doing now is you're educating a whole community. You're doing global education because what you're doing here doesn't stay within the reach of your circle, but it goes above and beyond. So, and I applaud you for your work. I've been reading about you for the longest, and it was a matter of time for great minds to be meeting together. So here we are today. I am also trying to use my expertise as a host of a show myself to kind of not make this about me, because I don't want to be the center of attention. I want to leave the space for the rest of my sisters on this platform, because as a lifelong learner, I'm looking forward to learning from everyone. I'm looking forward to learning from this conversation. But let me just briefly say that by profession, I am an educator. I work for the New York City Department of Education. I'm also a college professor. I call myself a professional student, only for the simple fact that I feel like all my life from the time I arrived to this country, the only thing I've done the most is besides traveling is really going to school. I'm always constantly learning. And right now I feel like I'm in a classroom today, and I'm really looking forward to learning from this current classroom. I'm a professional developer. I train teachers. I also teach teachers as a college professor. So again, having said that, I take teaching beyond the classroom, like I mentioned earlier, by being a radio host and a TV host. I have my own show in New York City called The Mojo. And shout out to the women from New York City on this platform, even Karen, who currently lives in Florida, however, betrayed New York, but we're gonna bring you back.
I'm not letting her go.
Florida. I don't know why Florida is stealing from me.
June as well, I think.
Including you, Ted. Okay, but one thing I know, if you guys are from New York, you're great assets to the world, because New York is the city that never sleeps. And being awake, we want to be on top of everything. We want to be on top of information. We want to be on top of the latest news. There's a whole lot that I could say about me, but I will humbly step back again to use this as a learning opportunity. I would prefer to remain on the learner side today than the teacher side, than the professor side.
Thank you, Dr. Ferrari. Okay, and Georgia Bryce, you are such an important element in today's world because of the pain that we're going through. And I say it openly, and thousands of people will see this video because that's just my platform. I say things passionately, and sometimes tears come out, not because I'm weak, but because I am that passionate, and sometimes I'm that angry. I've never been handcuffed because I was more afraid of my mom than I was afraid of the police. My mother made me walk a very straight line. I say I'm like Dr. Ferrari, and like all of you, I say I have more degrees than a thermometer. But when I look at George Floyd's story and George Floyd-like story, I say I am George Floyd, because they do not see my degrees walking down the street. They don't care about that, okay? So you as a therapist, please introduce yourself and briefly talk about your thoughts on where we begin the relationship of building our community, because there's just no such thing as a community without a family. And for us to have a family, we have to have relationships.
Absolutely.
So talk about that briefly, and then since you're the last person to introduce yourself, you'll open up the conversation. And I have a series of questions here for different members of this group in order to be able to flesh this out. So please introduce yourself.
Thank you so much, Ted, for having me. I sincerely appreciate it. It's been long overdue.
Long overdue.
And I'm very honored to be a part of this great panel of women. Nice meeting everybody officially. So my name is Georgia Bryce. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist here in the beautiful city of Hallandale Beach, Florida. I have the privilege of owning a private practice, building families according to pattern. And so this concept of rebuilding the Black family is something that's extremely passionate. It's very deep passion of mine. I'm a graduate of Nova Southeastern University, where I got my second master's degree in marriage and family therapy, but believe it or not, my background is science and engineering. I earned a bachelor's degree in environmental studies at Florida International, and then I went on to get my first master's in environmental engineering. So I know it seems like a huge stretch, but as my mentor, the late Dr. Miles Monroe, told me when I told him I was thinking of going back to school while working as an engineer, He said, do not abandon your engineering role. Find a way to marry engineering and therapy. And I thought he was nuts, but somehow it works because just by virtue of the name of my business, Building Families, all I've done is switch from one arena to the next. And I'm about building individuals, building families. I'm also a certified professional life coach. I have another business where I do coaching, leadership development, serve as a keynote speaker, and all of the passions that I have come together in both settings. So talking about this idea of family, especially within the Black community, I am privileged to be able to work with families. That's a part of the arm of what I do in terms of my private practice, is to work exclusively with children and family. I've been trained in addition to my degree to work specifically within the system, the family system itself. So if, for example, parents are having issues with their children, whether it's conduct issues or emotional issues, I'll work with the child, but it's always within the context of the family. And a lot of what you're going to find as we're talking about tonight is that we may manifest individual issues. One person within the family may be manifesting individual issues, but the truth of the matter is it's all systemic. The whole idea of how do we address the Black community right now, how do we address Black families, as we were talking earlier on with Lashana, it is so multi-layered. There is not just one aspect of things that you're going to be dealing with when you talk about the Black family. It's just, there's just so many components that are at work. And in order to begin rebuilding, because the family is the basic building block of society, there's so many aspects that you're going to have to look at. And we talk about it from a systemic standpoint. You're dealing with the intrapersonal conflict of the individual within the family itself. And then you're dealing with familial issues, familial conflict, then you're spreading that out into the immediate community to a broader macro level, where issues from a societal standpoint filters down to the individual. So how do you fix the family unless you're able to fix the individual, unless you're dealing with the societal issues and how they've played out right now in the times that we're in with the racial disparities and inequities that it's surfacing a lot more. We're talking about it. We can't escape the fact that racism, systemic racism, institutional racism has had a significant impact on the Black family. There's no getting around it. So all of these things are going to have to be discussed if we're going to do anything meaningful. But I will say this, I believe in the moment of crisis. I've been saying it since COVID-19 emerged and we've been put on lockdown, like I'd like to say it. A lot of what is going to happen is going to be dependent on our perspective. So we could either view it one way as a crisis, but in the midst of crisis, there's always an opportunity for growth. There's opportunity for evolution. There's opportunity for change. And so in the midst of all of what's happening right now in terms of the racial injustices that we're having to deal with, I think it's a poignant moment. We're dealing with racism. It's also a poignant moment for us to start talking about how are we going to strengthen our community, starting with the family. And it's not an either or conversation, because we run into these things on social media where somebody will say, well, how can you be upset about racism, but you're not concerned about Black on Black crime? And my position is always this: it's not either and, it's not either or, it's both and. So let's elevate the conversation, because for one thing to happen, it is going to need the input and the workings of the other things. So definitely, okay. I wanted to start off with that.
Thank you very much. Now, and I do not want to police time at all, because I want to hear everything that you have to say. So I'm going to ask you to police your time in order to be able to give everybody a chance to be heard. But here, I'm going to give the loaded question to my sister, Lashana, out of Brooklyn, New York. And this is something that all of you can weigh in on. When I ask you a different question, you can come back and answer the question I'm about to ask Lashana. It is a loaded question. It's an unfair question, but I do want an answer from you. It's an unfair question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. The question is the Black man absent?
Ooh. Wow.
Yeah, yes, I told you. I told you.
Yeah.
I told you.
Give me a second to breathe on that one. The Black man is not only absent. The Black man is invisible. Right.
Wow. Go ahead.
And, I have to take it back. You know, I started out talking about my family dynamics, and I said that for a point. You know, my both of my parents come from very large families from the South, and they were raised to be providers, to be protectors, to be nurturers, and I saw that growing up. So in my family, that's what I saw, and that's the community that I saw myself in. And my uncles and everyone, my grandparents, they, you know, they were actively there. So I saw the necessity of the man and his role, because that's what I grew up knowing. And it was his job, and I say job as quote, it was his job to make sure that in spite of anything that was happening, that he protected his family. In spite of whatever happened inside, when we walked outside in that street, we knew that we were protected. What's happening now, the complete breakdown of the family, is occurred because of so many dynamics. They're invisible in the workplace because there are our counterparts. You know, they're mistreated. They're misaligned, and so the pay scale for men, for our Black men, is not seen in the family, in the home. You know, because we women are portrayed as strong Black women, and that's a whole nother issue, Willie Lynch syndrome, and I'll throw that out there for someone else to pick up. We, as a strong Black woman, we're now shouldering all of the responsibility of what's going on in the home. And because our Black men are now incarcerated, our Black men are now, you know, involved in activities that are not representing the Black family appropriately, we are misrepresented. And because of so many years of being misrepresented, some way, I feel like the Black men has kind of conceded in defeat, you know? And so you have men who feel defeated. And as George and I were talking about, they're hurt and they're bruised, their egos are bruised. So when you have men whose egos are bruised, who are misrepresented, who are not able to do their God-given role as protectors and providers, they have given up and they have lost hope.
Okay, so let me go ahead and reframe the question for Dr. Ferrari, because what you're saying to me is so deep that I'm going to have to do this with a panel of men and find out what is going on. Dr. Ferrari, does the Black woman carry a heavier burden in our community?
I'm going to respond to that question as a mother, as a formerly married woman. Indeed, yes. Now, from a motherhood standpoint, I have to avoid playing the blaming game, not so much on these men, but I want to kind of blame our women because of the way they've raised our boys and our men to think that they're superior. And regardless of how their behaviors are, we tend to, as mother, and I'm guilty of that same sin. I have 3 children. My son is 31, and I have 2 daughters. And it's funny how I managed to make my son feel like he's the king. First of all, he's the firstborn. For 10 years, he was the only child. And of course, he's had all of my energy as a parent was spent on him. Now, it's pretty sweet and sour. There's a good and bad side to it because I raised him pretty much to be, as much as I wanted to overprotect him, I've raised him to be a strong man. I've raised him to represent me wherever he goes. So therefore, being of Haitian background, he was raised under those 3 L's, l'église, l'école, la caille, meaning church, home, and school.
That's right.
And again, as an immigrant, it has been very hard for my children to kind of keep up with my pace because they're saying, Mom, this was your time, but our time is different. No, I'm not buying into that because I kind of feel like they represent my culture. They have to pretty much act accordingly. And if any of you on this panel are from Haitian household, you could definitely understand. So having said that, as much as we want to strengthen the good qualities of our young men, and I think we've spoiled them not to be the men that they're supposed to be, meaning we cater to them too much. We make them feel like kings before they're even princes. So as they grow up, growing up in household where the mother is so tolerant of their behaviors, we're harsher on our girls than we are on our boys, and even, you know, having siblings when they're growing up in that household, again, being a male figure in the house, because sometimes the absence of the father kind of puts them in a position of leadership, but we don't want to lose them. So we pretty much cater a whole lot than we're supposed to our boys.
Okay, so having said that, let me reframe the question the same way again, but this is going to go to Junko, and then I'll go on to Karen. Junko, we're teachers, and even in our own profession, I see it almost all the time. Why are there so many single Black women? What's up? I mean, is this my imagination? Why are there so many single professional women?
Ted.
I love that question. I love it. Why didn't you give me that one?
Loaded questions
I know
here.
it's a loaded question.
know,
Ted.
Come on, man.
Okay. My pen is doing this.
I think what it is that women are looking for have a certain standard. And whatever that is, there's a certain expectation that we come in with. Mm-hmm. And it's a challenge for us to remove some of those expectations and really allow ourselves to see a person for what they are and see what potential that person may have. Mm-hmm. Because if we continuously go into the idea of this is what I expect, this is what I want, we don't see like the diamond in the rough, so to speak. And mm-hmm. Not that we need to, or I don't want to say need to give up values to be able to find someone that meets our standards, but we also have to try to understand why a particular individual is lacking something that we may view as lacking something. Mm-hmm, and that can really come from what that individual has been exposed to. If you've never flew on a plane, then you can't say, I don't like the ride. Mm-hmm, if you've never sat in first class, then I can't say, I don't like the meal. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I think that what happens is that we have been pigeonholed into believing that this is what we have to come in with this list of things that we need to look for. And I think that we do come in with a list, but we have to also be cautious of how we utilize that list against someone to determine whether or not that person fits the mold that we have in our mind. Okay.
So wait, pardon me for interrupting. I love what you're saying because there's just so many dimensions to what you're saying. So Karen, based on what June is saying, isn't it possible, and this goes across the gamut, right? Isn't it possible when you walk into, it could be subconscious, it could be subliminally within yourself, when you walk into a relationship with these expectations, aren't you setting yourself up to be disappointed possibly? I mean, are the expectations realistic, Karen? What do you think?
Yes, I agree with that we have certain expectations. And,
which I don't think is a bad thing. I mean,
right. So when we walk into that relationship, we're expecting certain things like, you're looking for a professional. Some women are looking for, a man that's, a professional, but he also has to be athletic because maybe they like exercising, which I do. I love exercising and I love outdoors and you know, so you have these expectations when you walk into a relationship that the man has to be a certain way, you know, he has to be a professional, he has to be
what I'm saying to you is, I am asking you, is it that a problem before even the relationship starts? Okay?
I think so, because if you're walking in with expectations, then, you know, it kind of presents a problem, because, you know, you're looking for something that maybe it's not there, but then maybe the man has some other attribute, you know, some other things that maybe he can bring to the table, and you're not looking for that because you have these specific things that you are looking for. And when you walk into that relationship, maybe that gentleman may have 2 of those qualities or 2 of the things that you're looking for, but then he doesn't have the other 5. So right away your guard is up, you know, and then you know, so maybe that's another reason why I think that, you know, you're going into something expecting too much, when, like June was saying, not to say that we have to let down or to bring down our more, you know, our morals or what we're looking for, but maybe we should go in with a clearer mind and not
what you're talking about, pardon me for interrupting, what you're talking about is universal in terms of in human dynamics, but in this particular case for today, for the sake of conversation, I would like to be able to parse out our community in particular, because the expectations for one man may not be the expectations for me. So let's just go back very quickly, and we'll give this question to Georgia. And I'd like to also hear your point of view. Is the Black man absent? I mean, you know, are my brothers, I'm here, you can see me, but I'm just saying, are my brothers not here?
So let me say this from a therapeutic standpoint. I love working with men. Women, nothing against you, but I absolutely enjoy. Last week I went and signed up to be on what is it? Therapy for Black men. So I'm just putting that free disclaimer out there. Yeah. I love working with men. And I think my passion for working with men actually started, I worked in substance abuse world for about 1.5 years. And sadly enough, as most of us know, the vast majority of people that struggle with substance use are men. And I will tell you one thing that I found very interesting. I worked with men across the gamut in terms of personality, in terms of disposition, in terms of demeanor. I've worked with men who were ex-convicts. I've worked with men who have murdered 1, 2 people. And it never failed. Every time a male stepped into my room for my first session, I had a paper towel, a roll of paper towels sitting on my desk, because the moment they started talking, 5 minutes into the conversation, they broke down. And they started crying. Why? Because it's almost like for the first time in their lives, they have an opportunity to become their most authentic self, to become their most transparent self. And so one of the things I walked away from that arena, really fully understanding, is this fact that our men have so many things going against them. From the moment they get out the womb, the world, the odds are stacked against them. I have male clients that I currently work with right now, and issues of abandonment, rejection, struggling with that, coming out of, you know, homes where their parents weren't available. You're dealing with alcoholism, you're dealing with drug addiction, parents not available, finding yourself in a foster care system, your grandmother having to take care of you. And so now you are facing all of those dynamics. You become an adult, and those things don't just go. The ramifications from those things or the after effects don't just go away, because you're now an adult and you're expecting to show up fully as a functioning male, right, being able to serve in the capacity as leader of your home or leader of your marriage. When you've never seen it modeled before you, you don't know what to manifest. I recently had a conversation with one of my clients. She's struggling in a 20-year marriage with her husband. And I remember just asking her today, after she reeled out to me all the things that were of concern to her. You know, he doesn't plan, he's not leading, et cetera, et cetera. And so I said to her, I asked her one very poignant question. I said to her, have you ever expressed to your husband that you appreciate the little that he does, how he shows up? He may not get it right, but do you ever express to him that I appreciate that you're actually trying, because you're modeling the only thing that you've ever seen, which is what your dad did. It wasn't comprehensive enough, but it is what he knew, and he's doing it to the best of his ability. And 20 years later, she said to me, you know what? I have never ever thought of that. Of course. So we tie that whole concept in of the emasculating of our men, whether it's in the home by women, whether it's in the home by mothers doing it to their teen sons, whether it's women doing it to their husbands, their boyfriends, whether it's society at large. Like I posted on Facebook last week and I got jumped on this idea of why all of a sudden the quote unquote alpha male is just being discredited or being beaten up on or being othered. And of course, there are different people, you know, whether it was people representing the homosexual community or people who represent the feminist movement had their things to say. And I said, well, you know what? If the guy struggles with his job where he's already being minimized on the job and he struggles in society and he goes home and he has to struggle with that, where does he find that space to be transparent, to be his authentic self, to be weak, to be vulnerable, to ask for help? So
Okay, so pardon me for
degree, but it's not necessarily an inherent thing. There are lots of factors that are playing out that's contributing to our males not being in action.
okay, so wait, there's just a lot that you said there. All right, so there, you are all academics. So what I would like to do, if possible, I'd like to be able to make this less academic and make this more open to the person who have not have all the degrees that you all ladies have and so forth, because this is what I'll tell you what I see as the only man in the room, right? I see the realities that you talk about, Georgia, about the history, about the economics, the frustration, the responsibility, the weight of the Black man, and the failures that we've had, right? About letting you sisters down, right? I cannot speak for all men, but I can speak to some degree that, you know, some of us have let you down. And this is what I've seen. What I've seen is a slow wave towards losing faith in the Black man.
Absolutely.
A slow wave of wanting to give up on a Black man. And I've heard sisters say, you know what, I'm gonna get me a white man because you know what, these brothers are not, you know, so Dr. Ferrari, is it possible? And when we close this, and unfortunately for me, I say I only have two enemies, time and distance, right? Unfortunately, when we close this, I'm going to ask everybody who is seeing this, because there are quite a few people watching, and I'm going to ask our community to be patient with the Black man, to really be forgiving, because so many layers are attacking the Black man in our community. And it's even hard for me to even say that, but there's just no way that we can do this without each other. So Dr. Ferrari, is it possible that our sisters are losing faith in the Black man because maybe some of us have let you down so many times?
Indeed, I will quickly answer by saying yes. Okay. Let me go back to the classroom for a minute. And this is, and I know you told us to avoid that. Let's not bring academia into this. But this was my observation. In the classroom, you would find, you know, our girls would have high attendance. But our boys, you know, they have very low attendance rates. And when they finally show up, rather than being about being academically focused, they want to chase girls. And of course, the girls are feeding into it, making them feel like they're kings and, you know, princes and kings. We get all of that. Now, 2 years ago, I was having a conversation with a colleague and who was, till this day, everybody's figuring out, why are you still single, Mona Lisa? You intimidate these men too much. And I said, what am I doing to intimidate a man? But it's my choice to remain single because, again, of those same reasons that we're discussing tonight, because I don't want to have to be sitting there feeding into somebody's ego or having to babysit, because I've already raised my son. And I feel like a lot of our men make too many excuses. Rather than manning up, they want somebody to cater to they want to play the blaming game. Oh, it's the white man, it's society. We know what the issues are already. Man up and face them. Until you can do that, some of us you won't be able to deal with. It's not my fault that you didn't make it. How about you kind of go back into your history, look at some of your behavior patterns. And I just want our Black men to be responsible, stop playing the blaming game, and do what they're supposed to do. I'm sorry, I know what the barriers are, but how do we overcome those challenges?
Well, you know, I wanted to say something because as I said, as Ted was saying, I know, I understand they have to face up to their responsibilities and everything, but you know, sometimes we have to look like I believe the therapist was saying, Georgia, that we have to look at the way some of these men were were brought up. Some of them came from broken homes, as she was stating. Some came from maybe a single parent, like maybe they were just brought up by their mothers or maybe a grandmother. So they never had a father figure to look up to let the, to tell them. I've heard, I mean, I know a lot of athletes, I know a lot of, you know, and they have told me, a lot of them, because although some of them have become who they are today, they remember the way they grew up. They had no father figure. And to this day, I mean, some of them are they're in their 40s right now, but to this day, they still remember, like they're saying they wish their father was there to see them graduate from college or to play their first game or to even see when they accomplished like a, you know, some of them maybe when they went into the Hall of Fame, whatever they, you know, whatever they have accomplished in life, they never had a father there to support them, to say, well, I'm so proud of you, son, or, you know, so they were brought up basically by their mothers or their grandmothers. So they are very, very, when it comes to maybe knowing how to love a woman or how to take, I mean, they know how to give them money and how to, so, you know, like to, you know, if they need something to go out and buy them something or maybe give them, you know, money to shop, whatever, but they don't know how to actually love or take care of a woman because they were never taught that. They never had a father figure to give them that support, to show them how to really be a man. Because a woman, I'm sorry, but I don't think a woman can actually show a male or bring, you know, they need a male figure in their lives. I mean, I'm sure the mother tried their best. She did whatever she had to do, but they still needed someone, whether it's a big brother or somebody to sort of, you know, show them the ropes then of life, or show them how a man is really supposed to behave and how, you know, just to, you know, to have that support, you know, figure, which they never had. So
I'm sorry, I apologize. Please allow me to interject. But Karen, I don't think I want to feed into that. They're not the only ones. If we sit there and make all these excuses, life is made of obstacles, okay? They're not the only ones in that situation. Look at our society, our societal makeup of the family, you know, nowadays. Look at it. It's been like that for how long now? Okay, a lot of our children are being born in monoparental household. Let's face that fact. Let's not use that as an excuse or as a barrier to stop our Black men from owning up to their responsibilities. I'm just simply not feeding into that. I'm sorry.
I appreciate the response, but there are a couple of things. Hold on. There's a couple of points that I need to go ahead and address, because there's a couple of things that Karen says that I believe are go beyond just the social component of this conversation, but there's also the psychological component to this conversation. Because even if the person were to have a household with a mother and a father physically providing for them, there are elements to the family based on my understanding of what this is, right? There are elements to the family which includes simple conversation, right? Which includes simple act of loving someone, right? So therefore, if, for example, a person were raised in a foster home and they were given a roof over their head and they were given some food and they were given clothes and they were sent to school, and nobody held that child in their arms and said, you know what, I love you and so forth. I had to learn this academically, that you cannot pull a rabbit out of an empty hat. If the person doesn't really know how to love from the get-go, that wasn't nurtured at an early age, ladies and gentlemen, you know, there's the major component to all this conversation is missing. So what Karen says is valid, and what you're also saying, Dr. Ferrari, is very valid, that, you know what, the fact that my father was not around doesn't mean that I have to be absent. What I am going to do now and at the end of this conversation is I'm going to ask all of us to be very careful before you reproduce.
Yeah.
Very careful before you have a child, right?
Exactly.
Because if you're going to bring a child into this world, you better know, aside from feeding it and clothing the child and so forth, because I always say, if you cannot feed it, don't have it and so forth, you're going to have to make a conscious decision as to how you're going to love that child. Because any child that doesn't have that balanced sense of security emotionally is going to be a social pariah.
Absolutely.
is going to be a social pariah. I'm sorry, June. Go ahead. You were saying something, and after that, we'll go to LaShawn.
I just wanted to come back to something that you said. You said we need to take patience, we need to be forgiving, and we need to look at these layers. I think what's happening to a lot of our Black men is very much what Karen says. I agree with you, Dr. Mona Lisa Ferrari, but men are making excuses, and I'm not going to say Black men alone, men as a whole. I think we need to teach a man how to be a man, to love us the way that we need to be loved.
But if the man didn't have an example, if the man didn't have an example.
Ted, let me finish. The example comes not just from us teaching them. Yes, it also comes from them having someone in their arsenal to teach them how to be the man in order to love us a certain way. However, we cannot give up on our men.
That's right.
And put them off to the side and say, well, it's easier for me to go to someone white or someone Asian or someone Hispanic, because a man is a man, regardless. And just because he's Black, yes, he comes with additional aspects of issues. However, he's not any different with issues than anyone else, but he has different issues. But he has issues. And how we deal with him, how we handle him, how we take the patience, how we peel those layers, that if he allows us to peel those layers off from him, to help him to become the man that we want him to be, then he becomes that man. But he has to be open to listening. He has to be open and feel a sense of security from us, or belief from us that we're going to be there for him. If he does not already have that. So there's many tools that I think that have to come off the table, so to speak. They have to be open-minded. That's the first thing to me. Because if you're not open-minded to what it is that I'm going to offer to you as the woman in your life, then regardless of male figure, patience, layering, forgiving, because we could forgive till forever come eternity, but you have to forgive, and you have to be truthful in your forgiveness. And they have to be taught how to be truthful. Many of them don't know how to be truthful. Just like Dr. Ferrari says, well, we raise our men to be kings. We raise our men not to basically cry. Well, you know what? It's okay for you to cry.
That's right.
It's okay for you, but the mentality is that, oh, you don't cry. You have to be the king. You have to stand strong. You have to protect. Well, you know what? What about protecting their hearts? What about the hearts that they're protecting that we just continuously stab into? We have to learn how to love them where they are, because then they can grow from there. But if we try to love them based on what social media says, or this is the view of the man that we need to have, then we're not really loving them. We're loving a vision of what we think our Black men should be. We have to also go back into history. Well, it's designed that Black men would leave the family. It was designed and set up that way. So now what we have to do is redesign our mentalities to get them to understand that you are meant to be here with us and we are here with you. Without all of that, understanding that history, we're fighting a battle that's never going to win. We can talk about, oh, the Black man is going to the white woman, the Black man is going to the Asian. We can talk about all of that. Why? Because they don't understand their history. This was designed over 400 plus years ago, that this is what was supposed to happen today and right now.
Let me ask you this, June, and this goes to possibly LaShawna and Dr. Bryce. That history is it still, even though it's supposed to be not visibly there, but are we still suffering from that history? I mean, do we still have like the side effects?
every
Is-
day.
That is
is-
ingrained in the DNA.
Every
and
day,
so
every
and,
day.
and well, I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to go into the DNA because the DNA is hardwired. So I'm not going to go there. But LaShawna, and
You see
you
that
started
word
off.
suffering, Ted? Hold on one second. You see that word suffering? That word suffering is an agonizing word to me. That means that it stays and there is no cure. There is no remedy. So we continue to keep opening the wounds of our Black men instead of teaching them how to mend those wounds that they know exist and systemically continues to exist. We have to mend the wounds in order to cross it out. They can never love us the way we want them to love us because we continuously open the wounds. The minute they do something wrong, oh, that's what all men do. We expect you to do that. Instead of saying, you know what, turn it around. I like the fact that you opened the door for me today. I love the fact that you cooked dinner for me today. Instead, we will be quick, fast to say, why you ain't open the door for us? Why you didn't cook? You've been home all day. We have to learn to turn it around because we don't understand what it is that they're going through or what it is that they're missing. We're so concerned about our vision of our men. What about the visions that they have seen? The only visions that they have seen. If they've only seen a broken home and they've only seen their mothers get hit by their fathers or stepfathers or boyfriends, what do you think they're going to do? We have to teach them that that's not the way that this is going to happen.
Mr. Jimmy Rosemead says that he wants to weigh in on this conversation. Don't worry, brother. We're going to have several parts to this.
And then I have a question for Georgia.
Hold on. We're going to have several parts to this, and I'm going to invite a panel of just men as well because I need to know what's going on. Because if we don't have Brother Jimmy, a solid family, we're not going to have a solid community. If we do not have a solid community, we're not going to have development and for our peoples. LaShawna, please forgive me for.
Woo. Lord, I feel like it's real hard because I'm sitting here chomping at the bit.
No.
It is
Please
I know there's so many elements here.
Yes, please forgive me for going. Hold on for a second. Please forgive me for going there, but you did open it. You did volunteer this information with regards to your marriages and your divorces, and you did say hindsight is 2020. If you don't mind, what would you do differently? What would you do differently?
You know, I'm going to start by saying that one thing that my father always said to me was that a man will only do what you allow him to do. And as in both of those marriages, I'm going to basically kind of contributed to some aspects of that quote. And in the first, both, one I was younger, and the other one maybe 15 years later, being a little older, but both not really prepared for. One of the things that we come to the table trying to own one another, and that's kind of in response to one of the things that June said. We try to own one another instead of taking ownership of the relationship and what that relationship is defined as. And I think in one of the marriages, I tried to own him. And, my father was alive during the time of that marriage. And it was one of the things, and I'm going to bring some experiences here to the table. One of the things that my dad would, if my father said something in relationship to the marriage, I took that as law because my dad has said it. And because he said this, I brought that mentality and that to the relationship. And I, basically saying, well, my daddy said this. Why aren't you doing it the way my daddy does it with his wife, with my mother? So I took some cues from that relationship, and without taking ownership of the relationship, I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what to look for. And so my expectation, and that's that word that we talked about before, my expectation was in one place. And because we were not able to properly communicate what we wanted our relationship to look like, it fell apart. And then the second, the relationship mainly fell apart because he was trying to own me in a sense that he came with his own set of expectations. And because I was more jaded from the first marriage, I was more my attitude was, you're not going to control me. And if I choose to do X, Y, and Z, I'm doing that because that's what I want to do. Both very immature responses to what a marriage is supposed to look like. So,
but isn't the man supposed to? Isn't the man supposed to be in control? Isn't the man supposed to control? Isn't that biblical?
Listen, I look at marriage now, and as I said before, hindsight always being 2020, and having wisdom and understanding better to do better. We have to take ownership of ourselves. Most women are now diving into self-care rituals. We like to travel more. We like to hang out with our girlfriends more. So you find that more women in my age group, and maybe even in your you guys' age group, they choose in singleness. Most women choose to be single because they don't want the headache of having to mend or repair a man and take care of somebody and their brokenness. And because
listen,
we're not
for that matter.
Wait a minute. Let me finish. And we're afraid to broach the conversation about what a relationship is supposed to look like to us. We oftentimes take cues from social media. We take cues from our parents. We take cues from our girlfriends and what that looks like and what we dream and fantasize about this white picket fence and what that's supposed to mean to us without really understanding how to manifest that in reality. So yes, how we show up matters. Yes, how we describe our role as wife, as mother, as whatever, that matters. And being able to have that conversation is a very delicate line that we walk, because guess what? Most men don't know how they want the relationship to go. And once again, I'm going to end by saying from what my dad said, a man will do what you allow him to do. And if you, and I oftentimes think about Steve Harvey and his relationship with his wife, and he talks about that all the time. He may not be the right one to describe, but there was an essence in their relationship that I really admired, where his wife basically she set the bar, she set the standard, and when he crossed that, she was willing to walk away, and when we design and shape our relationships or partnerships or whatever, we have to have a level of accountability that we bring to the table. We have to be able to communicate what that's supposed to look like to us, and we have to be all in. If this is a relationship that mattered, we have to be all in. And I'm going to be very honest. In my second marriage, I honestly wasn't all in. I'm going to be very honest, because I was jaded from the first one, so I wasn't all in. So when it was time for us to part ways, I said, you know what? It's okay, because I had not invested all of myself enough to say this is worth losing. When you come to the table and you're afraid to lose that person, you will risk bringing your best self to the table at all times, because this matters. This relationship matters. This woman matters. This man matters. And instead of walking away when I'm angry, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to get myself together and let's have this conversation. As difficult as it is, it's important. And that's how we can really begin to bring some continuity to what our relationship is supposed to look like. Guess what? When you get married, they say, let no man come, what God has joined together, let no man put asunder. And that's real. When they say don't let anyone in your relationship, don't let anyone in your marriage, that is real. That's one of my golden nuggets from from my marriages and from those relationships. You're not supposed to allow anyone else to define what your relationship, what your marriage, what it looks like, and how it's defined. I'm going to say this and then I'm going to end on this particular point. I watched my grandparents, my mom's mother and father. At some point, as they got older, they began to they slept in separate rooms. And as you know, maybe the bed was this or that and the other. Can you imagine I, a man and a wife having that kind of situation where, I can't sleep in this room because that's wrong. We're supposed to be, you know what I mean? You have to define what your relationship looks like for you, what's comfortable for you, what the rules are for you and yours, and everyone else doesn't matter.
That's right.
Relationships are built on communication, accountability, responsibility. And that's
And I agree with you. I agree with you. And what I wanted to find out too, as you said, if you're really vested in the relationship, the man and the woman, if there are any kind of problems, I know the Black men, they do not like to go to therapy. That's one thing. I don't know if the therapist, Georgia can attest to that, but Black men just feel that therapy for them, it's something, they have to be crazy or something has to be wrong while they're going to therapy. Instead of them maybe going and just, kind of releasing, like she said, there are a lot of things that they can get on the table or put out on the table. Maybe they cry in front of her, like she said before, because, a lot of Black men are taught that they're not supposed to show their feelings or their emotions. So maybe even around their better half or the other person, they don't want to show their actual emotion. And so when they go to therapy, they're able to kind of release that, and show that, kind of be more, show their emotions more than, than maybe if they're just at home with their partners or whatever, they don't want to show that because they were taught never to show their emotions like that. They're not supposed to be emotional. They're supposed to be the strong ones. They're not supposed to, they can't talk about things that maybe in their past.
Right. We're wired to not show weakness. So, but thank you for that point. But before I go to Dr. Ferrari and
Actually, I had something I wanted to add.
Yes, before I go to you, there's one word, and this is my humble opinion, okay? And this is also a learning opportunity for me because Dr. Ferrari says that this is a teachable moment for all of us. There's one word I have not heard, and if you said it, I do apologize, I missed it. As far as I'm concerned, in my humble opinion, and all the people who are watching, there's one word that no one has mentioned, which is fundamental. It's probably been said in different ways, that is absolutely necessary for all of this to even begin, and the word is respect.
Yep.
The word is respect. I tell my wife, there's no such thing as love without respect. You can respect somebody and not love them, but in my humble opinion, there's just no way that you can love somebody and not respect them. As a matter of fact, I always say respect comes first. And then I'll also say, before we go on to Dr. Ferrari and George Bryce, is I am asking for all human beings to figure out what happiness is for yourself. And then I'm asking for you to be able to find happiness with someone. It is just, you just take a lot of public health studies. People live longer when they're in the relationships. I'm not necessarily comfortable with anyone saying, well, I've been through so much hell with relationships, I give up, I'd rather be single. And I've heard that, what LaShawna said, some women choose to be single. I understand that. I'm just not necessarily sure that the divine architect meant it for it to be that way. I'm not talking about marriage on a sheet of paper, which is a social construct. I'm talking about having somebody significant that you can come home and yell at, yell to, talk to, and have somebody hold you. And that is a cognitive necessity for survival. So go ahead, Dr. Ferrari, and then Georgia Bryce.
One of the things I focus on as I listen to people, I seek for key vocabulary word that matters in the discussion. So one thing I haven't heard in this discussion is partnership. Okay, I think a relationship, regardless whether it's mother, daughter, father and son, mates. Okay, one key word is really partnership. Now, how do we see that partnership? And let me play devil's advocate, ladies. Please allow me to do that. Trust me, you know, you could tell I'm already harsh on our men, but allow me again to kind of play devil's advocate. As much as I'm not trying to settle for less. And Ted, I don't want you to maximize on that harsh talk, thinking like, oh, we got this. Trust me, as much as we're saying, I'd rather be single than to settle for less. There's times that we break down and cry too. There's times that I've said, oh my gosh, should I have held on to my ex? Or at least I would have had somebody to talk to, especially during COVID. Oh my God, it's like, whoa, I'm here alone. I get all of that. But I'm going to ask you that question, Ted. Please allow me to take your position, your side, and you become the guest now. How do you see the partnership between a man and a woman, given the obstacles that we know what the issues are, we know, but how do you envision that partnership, that relationship?
Listen,
how high is the level of accountability? I know I'm putting you on the spot.
No. I welcome that, because that was something I was going to ask Georgia Bryce. I was going to say, and the way that I formed the question, I'm going to ask you for patience. My question was going to be, Georgia Bryce, does the woman have her place? Does the man have his place? Because you know what, if we're talking about a partnership, everyone has a role to play. As a married man, let me tell you something. I'm going to be very honest and very frank with you. It is a work in progress. It is a work in progress, because my wife is a nurse. She works like a beast. And not as a man and as a woman, but as a human being. When she comes home, I look at her. At the end of the day, this is for us as a family. I have to massage her feet. At the beginning of the marriage, because I love to eat. Okay, I love some food. Okay, because one of the questions I asked my wife was to my wife, because oftentimes they say, well, if you want to know your wife, look at her parents, look at her mom. And I said to my wife, you know, was your mom a good wife? And she said, yes, my mom was an excellent wife. And I said, okay, well, how do you define that? She said, because she paid all the bills. I'm like, what? Because she paid all the bills. I'm like, excuse me, do you cook? I need to eat. Okay, so, and then she said, she doesn't know how to cook. I'm like, excuse me, but, you know, she says her thing was keeping a clean house. I'm like, I cannot eat a clean house. I need to eat. And so, and to her credit, she started to learn how to cook. She started to learn how to cook. And she's an okay cook, okay? She's an okay cook, you know? But I realized at the end of the day, this lady as a primary care, healthcare person, she works so hard, 12-hour shifts. I just decided slowly but surely, without the request, that she cannot handle that. She does not have the energy for that. So she has her role. She likes to clean. Her thing is keeping the house clean. I'm an educator. You know, I actually look after the kids in terms of their education. I will cook. I will do the laundry. There's a balancing act. And I even say to my kids, sometimes my kids will ask me for something and I'll say, you know what, that's not my department. That's your mama's department, you know? And if, for example, there's something that's broken, you know, my wife will say, you know, go talk to your daddy. So yes, I welcome the question, because I am comfortable in my space. You know that new expression, stay in your lane? Stay in your lane. I am comfortable staying in my lane, because there are certain things that my parents reared me to do. My father, God rest his soul, he died in 2014. He told me, don't wait for occasions to buy your wife flowers. Don't wait for Valentine's Day, because every day is Valentine's Day, right? Don't wait for Mother's Day to buy her a card saying Mother's Day, because she's a mother every day, and so forth. So it was easy for me to figure that out. And plus, I'm the eldest of all my siblings, you see. But so I say this to say that you have to figure out what that is for your relationship, for your household, what it looks like, because in some households, only the woman do the cooking. In my household, I do the cooking. You see what I mean? So I asked this as a loaded question to Georgia Bryce. You know, is there a role for the woman? Does the woman have a place to say, you know, is it a man's job to mow the lawn, or can a woman mow the lawn? I mean, you know, and probably the answer is, you know, you define it for your relationship, right? Who's on top, right? Who's on top, right? Okay, so you have to define that. What do you say, Georgia Bryce?
No, I agree with you 100%. I know I won't say the vast majority, but I know traditionally in the Black community, we subscribe to a Judeo-Christian thought paradigm. And so, there's always a particular order in which things are done. If you subscribe to scriptures, you see, men lead. I personally believe that the concept of role is very subjective. Like, look, it's what works in your house, I mean, we're living in a time now when both are working. The man is working, the wife is working. If it works that wife makes more money than the male, and they both decide together that it's probably best for you to work and I'll stay home with the kids, roles are beginning to shift constantly. And so I can never say to one across the line or cookie cutter approach that no, you ought to do certain things and the man has to do certain things. Honey, whatever works in your household is what works in your household. I wanted to kind of backtrack a little bit when we're talking about this whole idea of relationships. And I think one of the things that I know to be very crucial is this whole idea of, we focus a lot on the relationship, the interpersonal relationship. But the challenge that we have is we can't show up fully in a relationship with another person unless we are showing up fully in relationship with ourselves first.
That's right.
And that's the big problem that we're having. We're having these expectations of the other person, and they don't know, and you don't know. And so what happens, I'll tell you, hands down, Ted, every couple that I've had to do therapy with, the vast majority of my work, you know what it involves? It involves me taking this two-prong approach where I am dealing with the individual in the dyad. I'm helping each person to work out core beliefs, negative core beliefs that you're showing up with in your marriage or in your relationship that's affecting the relationship itself. And these are things that you're not paying attention to. How you feel about yourself, deeply held ideas that you have about you that's showing up and it's affecting the relationship. We talk about, I know you say I should keep it out of academia, but cognitive distortions, how we see things. We're seeing things from a certain light and it's affecting the perspective and it's showing up in the relationship. It's creating a problem. The idea of core values. If you don't know what your core values are as an individual, if you don't know what is important to you as an individual, how are you going to show up in relationship with somebody else? And we're often expecting the other person to meet those things when we are unclear about what's important to us.
Mhm.
So I think the most important thing that anybody could do right now as single women, because you kind of pointed to us about the idea of us being single, why so many single professional women are out there, is that if you're looking to get married, and I'm putting up my feet as well, work on yourself. Figure out what matters to you most. Figure out what are some of those deeply held beliefs that you're struggling with coming from childhood. How you were socialized, how you were taught to see yourself, experiences from past relationships. Work through those things first, because when you show up in a relationship or marriage, half the time it's not the other person that's the issue. Half the time you're tripping up over yourself, but we have this tendency of looking at the next person as being the problem and the source of the solution. And so being able to tease out what is his issue and what are my issues, and taking ownership of my issues, him taking ownership of his issues, and then we're able to work together. If you're not doing premarital counseling, you're playing games.
Can I
I hear that.
piggyback off of what Georgia is saying? And it's so profound. I think that we have to be mature enough to admit our why.
Oh yeah.
You got to recognize, especially. I'm sorry. Can I piggyback off of what? In this day and time, you have to really understand why you're here for at the table. Are you here because you want to be something stable? Do you want to have a relationship because of companionship? Do you just want someone to go out to dinner with? Do you just want someone to have sex with? Like, this is something that you need to really be
clarifying your mind, clarifying your mind.
And being secure enough in yourself to have these real conversations, because once again, it's not about control and domination. It's about owning yourself. It's not about owning the other person. And that's why we come into complications, because of Willie Lynch and slavery days. A lot of times we bring that mentality to the relationship, but that's my woman. I own her. And you may not say that with words, but your actions may show that you think that you own that other person. It may be male to female, female to male, both ways. It goes both ways, but you have to be mature enough to be honest with yourself, and be truthful in that this is what I want. and not
Okay.
switch up. Because if I want to go to dinner twice a week, that's what it is, and there's no more. I'm not ready for a relationship. You may want marriage. That's not what I want. And guess what? You have to give that. You have to be respectful enough of yourself and the other person to be able to say, "Listen, I'm not ready for that. You cute
right.
and all, but I'm
Right.
not ready for that," and be mature enough to walk away and allow that person to find the relationship, marriage, partnership situation that they want to, that they are looking for. You know, and
Okay.
a lot of times we fit and mold ourselves into, and I heard someone else mention that in the beginning of our conversation. We fit and mold ourselves into something that they're looking for, or the other person molds themselves into something we looking for. And guess what? Somewhere down the line, we are resentful as all outdoors, because guess what? I don't, if let's just say, like with you, Ted, you said, well, my wife doesn't cook, right? Now, what if she wasn't mature enough, or she felt comfortable enough saying to you that she doesn't know how to cook, but she's gonna bend backwards to try to fake the funk and make meals when she know doggone well she don't know how to cook. And guess what? She's gonna end up being angry because there's gonna be one night that you're behind don't come home, or that maybe you want to hang out with the fellas and she done slaved over this recipe book making your meals, and that'll be a big argument. And guess what? She is not even able to say, I really don't like to cook.
Oh, believe me, we've been there.
But I'm
We've
just
been there.
this is what I'm talking about, the maturity of being in a relationship where you're able to come to the table and say, listen, I don't like to cook. I can cook, but cooking ain't my thing. I have other talents, and cooking ain't one. I show enough to clean. You know what I mean? But you have to be honest enough in your relationship and within yourself to say that coming in. I'm not Wonder Woman. Listen, you best be opening my door. You better be walking on the outside of that sidewalk, because if not, that is the last time we're going out. You know what I mean?
Love that. I love that. Those. Go ahead.
Keep in mind.
But this is part of the conversation.
Those are part of those expectations, and I think our men know what we expect. But I think when we force it upon them,
ma'am.
Go ahead. Finish, June, and then I have a question. Finish, June, and I have a question for Dr. Ferrari. Go ahead.
Let me finish. Men know. It's when they feel related to you within the relationship that it naturally happens. Men know. They're not oblivious to what we want as much as we think that they are. A lot of times, we can agree to disagree.
Listen,
but
you know what? But Karen, sorry, June, and that in itself, right there, that in itself, I think is an expectation. The fact that you think that they know, I think is an expectation.
They don't always know.
But guess what? Guess what? Men take.
I think that we come in a lot of times with a lot of expectation, and a lot of men are aware of what women want. Whether they are comfortable doing it because the relationship feels right to them makes a difference. I just listened to what you said about, well, he best to open the door. He best to walk on the outside. Okay, they're aware of those things. I think what happens is how we come into this will allow them, or they choose whether or not they want to continue to do that for us. And it comes back to the idea of respect. Mm-hmm. If they don't respect you and respect you within the relationship because they can relate to you, they will not. And especially if they know it's something that we want. Because we've pushed it upon them, it's not natural to them. Again, it comes back to being taught. They are aware. trust and believe men are aware when they're not opening that door for you. They are aware when they are not standing out on that left side on the curb for you. They're aware of those things. But when we start hounding them about it, then they say, oh, I don't feel I need to do it. And that's where the disrespect comes in. That's where we feel disrespected. That's where we say, well, you should be doing this. And then we become nagging about it. And that pushes them further away. And you have to understand, they're going to do it because they know. But we have to be cautious of how we choose to let them do it, because they still need to feel that they're in control. And when we start telling them, oh, well, you haven't done that, you haven't done that, you haven't done that, you haven't done that, then they don't feel like they're in control. And sometimes you play that so-called subservient role, but we know better. We know better. We know how to get anything that we want from our men. Women, we know that. But we cannot nag them about getting what we want from them, because they will push back.
Yeah, the
Because
nagging.
for some of them, it's not a natural thing.
Yeah, the nagging is definitely an issue. We can talk about that. Now, I'm looking at the time, and out of respect for your time, I'm going to ask a question,
Yes.
and then after, I'm going to give everybody the opportunity to give a closing statement. Now, here's another phenomenon in our community, and Karen and Dr. Ferrari mentioned this a little bit. What is the deal? What is the deal? What is the phenomenon of the strong Black woman, right? I mean, strong because you have to be, right? You have so many responsibilities in our society. I get that. You have to be mother, you have to be provider more often than not, and so forth. I get that. However, the strong Black woman mentality, I want to parse it out, because I feel in that space somewhere, I want to ask the question within the realm of the strong Black woman. Is there a way for us to balance humility and self-confidence, right? Because if a woman just shows up, you know what, I'm all of this, I'm an astronaut, I know how to cook, I can do backflips, and I know how to twerk, right? So therefore, I want to be able to, I want to be able to understand, is there a space for anybody to show up, right? My name is Ted Victor, and I'm a millionaire, and you know what? You have to be privileged to be on my platform, you know, because I'm all of this in a bag of cheese. So is it worthwhile to even think about the possibility of balancing? Because I'm all about self-confidence, right? You have to be. If I'm not sure about myself, you're not going to be sure about me, right? So, is there a way to balance humility and self-confidence? Dr. Ferrari and Karen. Dr. Ferrari?
I love that question, Ted. And I happen to be one of those people who have to check myself every now and then. I have a very strong personality. Like I said, a lot of men have confessed to me that, you know what, you're very intimidating. If you want a man, you have to tone it down, sister. I agree to a certain extent. And I think Karen and I have we've been working together, you know, during this whole COVID-19 on a lot of Zooms. We participated in a lot of meetings, and I'm used to working in a lot of setting where I'm working with men. So I kind of inherit that personality, again, based on issues from past relationship where, you know, men think they're your father and they want to put their hands on. No, you're not touching me, brother. You're not doing that.
Wait. That's a whole separate conversation. That's not even an option. The whole issue about domestic violence. I know I'm opening
a whole can of worms.
That is not an option. And I'm going to put it out there. And since you mentioned it, Dr. Ferrari, my dear love, my dear sister, I do not, under any circumstance, want to think about violence in our community, okay? Mm-hmm. That has got to stop.
Yep.
And I'm going to try to say this without going into tears, because how are you going to even think about harming the mother of your children like that?
Okay.
How are you going to even think about it?
They've done it, and they think it's okay. They've done it.
So we're not even going to go there, because for me, that's not an option. Okay, that is not an option. And if it is an option, I mean, if it is happening, I'm giving you permission to walk away.
Well, brother, right now in my state, I'm dealing with a man who recently shot his wife and kids, like over the weekend, because, well, let me not assume because the case is being investigated, but again, my assumption and my perception, it's happening because of the level of insecurity that those men have. Again, we're inheriting men that comes into relationship, without checking themselves. And if we as women try to check them, then they want to tell you, oh, you're too arrogant, you're too self-confident. I cannot allow you to come and destroy my self-confidence. It's not my fault that I have the degrees that I have and you don't. I'm willing to take you with that as is tag on your back, but you better tone it down. Don't come over here thinking I'm willing to work with you. I see it as a partnership. Chase says the right relationship is everything. So let's make it right. I'm willing to be a partner, but not your doormat. The minute you want to start using me as a doormat, that arrogant girl is going to come out, and you don't want that. You don't like that. So let's kind of put that to the side. Okay. Again, it's all about retraining our men, and it's all about everybody checking themselves. Do some self-check at the door. I know who I am, you know who you are, and mutual respect has to be the common denominator.
That's what Georgia
if I accept
saying.
a man, and I'm talking to my sisters right now, if you took this man, he was making less money than you have, please don't use that against him, because he's already coming to you fragile. I mean, you have to also protect him with that issue, okay? Don't let that root of all evil get in between you and break your relationship.
Let me add something from social media. Jim Criff says, I think most Black men are afraid to be vulnerable around their girls. Half of the time they will use it against them. Okay, so that's something to consider as well, whereby, if we're vulnerable, some of y'all, listen, I'm going to give the men the opportunity to talk, and I got to just say something for the brothers. Y'all could be harsh.
Chris, I got a quick question though. I got a burning question, Chris.
Y'all sisters could say some harsh stuff though. Y'all be going for the jugular. Y'all be slicing us men by the knees. Go ahead, doctor.
My burning question is, why is it that when our Black men are successful, they find us not worthy of being their wives?
Yes.
They
That's not true.
To the other side.
That's not true. That's not true. Listen, if my wife let me, I'd marry all of y'all. What?
But they say that you know why? Because they say that we're very, we're aggressive. We're too.
That's the excuse they use. My own son is kind of guilty of that, but I love my daughter-in-law. I'm not gonna go into that. He's with a white woman. I'm not getting into that. However, that is an issue in our community. Okay? Right now, we're facing several issues. Before, our sisters were our competitors. Now, not only we have several issues to fight. Our own sisters, men, okay, because our men tend to kind of want to play on both sides of the fence. That's their prerogative. I respect that, but that's another threat into that's another issue that we have to face. The prison system, economic deficiencies, you name it. We have a whole lot against us women. So don't be too quick to blame us, because by the time we find a good man, because all these good men are taken. So we're asking ourselves a question, sisters. Are we gonna have to learn how to play in the playpan? Are we gonna have to learn how to play in the white in the box? In the sandbox? Is that what we're subjected to? Having to play in the sandbox?
There are men out there. There are good men out there.
Where are they, sis?
Well, I have a partner that is a good man. So I guess that's one that's off the charts. So, but I think that it really comes down to, and I'm going to go back to what I said in the beginning. If we have these expectations and they're so high because of the degrees that we have, they're degrees. They are not who we are internally. If we have them so high and they can't reach them, and we don't look beyond to see what their potentials are and work with them, then of course there are no good men out there. They're all quote, quote, taken. They're married like Ted, but they're out there. It depends on what you're looking for, determines what you're going to receive. And I don't give up my values. I don't give up my values. I don't give up my morals, but I don't go in, because I've been in relationships where I've had expectations. I wanted this. You have to have this. You have to earn a certain income, drive a certain car, have a certain job, wear a behind all of that, that's all facade. That's just the outer layer of a man. You have to peel away and see what's underneath all of that. Then you can say, oh, you know what? I would have never looked at you. He's not the athletic guy. He may not be, you know, the top model out there. We have to look beyond those things and see what's really within his heart and soul and the person that he can become with you. Can he enhance you? Can he lift you up? That's where we need to be looking, not how deep is his pocket. Because if that's the case, then, you know, we're going to keep looking for eternity.
So let me ask you, right. So thank you very much for sharing that. Let me ask you, Karen, is it possible, Karen, and this is a loaded question for all of you. Is it possible, Karen, that your standards are too high?
No, I mean, well, I agree with what June is saying. Yes, you have a certain expectation or a certain, maybe you have a certain type of guy maybe that you are attracted to, but as June said, if this person really wants to be with you, or they find that, you know, then even though they might not be the person that, you know, maybe you're out there looking for, and as June said, you don't look at the outer appearance sometimes, but if their personality, if there's someone that really, that you know, really is interested in you, their personality will shine through and you will see through that. I mean, I don't particularly, I'm not looking at looks, or, you know, not saying you're not looking at looks. Of course you do. We're women, you're a man. If you see a good looking.
Yes, we are all visual animals. We are visual animals.
Right. But I mean, you know, that should not be the main thing or main attraction.
Are the level of expectations reason why we have so many single, beautiful, professional Black women there?
I think so. I think so.
Is it too high? Are the expectations too high?
I think the level of expectations are high, but the thing is that what I can understand with a lot of men too, especially Black men, they would want like a Black woman to be just up there. She has to be that level of, but then they go ahead and they pick up these other women of other races, and they don't even, some of them are like trash. You know, basically.
Okay, well, I'm glad that you said, I'm glad that you said the word trash, right? Because I'm thinking, so let's just say that you were to find a guy with a wonderful personality that fits you, and he's a trash collector, right? Makes a good salary, he works hard, he's not a professional, he's a blue collar guy, or maybe not a trash collector, but somebody who is not a professional in the standard sense, but somebody who is hardworking, who is kind. But those guys, or maybe even a teacher, you know, teachers don't get paid much. Those guys, I have seen that with my own two eyes. Those guys are overlooked. Those guys are overlooked. You know, he doesn't drive this car. He doesn't make that much money. I have in my family women who are single because they are looking for that checklist, you know, 6-figure income, check. Over 6 feet, check. Okay, no children, check. I mean, come on, people, come on. I mean, you're going to, really what you want to do is marry yourself, right? Because, you know, that's who you are, because that's your lens, right? So Karen, are the standards too high?
I think that some, you know, but I think I'm not, you know, I don't know about every woman, but as I'm saying that you have to have some level, you have to have some standards. So, because you don't want to, you know, you have to have some standards because we all have values and morals. But what I'm trying to say is that if the person comes to you and you see their personality and you see that, I mean, you know, that you can still have a future with them, why not take the chance and see where that goes? Because, you know, then you set your standards too high. And I know that has been me. And like Mona Lisa said, or I think it was June, maybe that said that, you know, that's what she used to go for. And the same thing with me. You know, like you said, you check mark, you know, you want this, you want that. But I mean, there comes a time where you say to yourself, well, you know, I mean, the guy doesn't have to have all of that, just as long as you know that he has a good heart. He's a hard worker, like you said, and he's willing to, you know, he's willing to work with you. You both can work together and you know, make something, you know, something happen. You don't have to have like all those factors.
But
that
you
you
see
have.
but that goes back to two words. One word, which is what LaShawna said. She said maturity, and it goes back to what I was asking, patience. And when I said patience, and maybe I should have been specific, a little bit more specific. I don't want you to just be just patient with me as a Black man. I want you to be patient with yourself, right? For you to be able to get to, which is what Georgia was saying. And we're going to go into the closing statements because we've been here for unbelievably already for an hour and a half, which is crazy. So we have to be patient with ourselves to figure out who we are as an individual, right? And that's neither black or nor white. That's just as a fundamental human being, you have to know who you are before you can go into a relationship and so forth.
Yeah.
And then, because if you're trying to figure it out while you are in a relationship, I'm not necessarily sure that's a very good idea and so forth. So having said that, I'd like to be able to give all of you the opportunity to have some closing statements, but I'm also going to ask you for a little bit more for us to come back and do a part two when you are available out of your busy schedules, because what I want to do now is to talk about where do we go from here? How do we build our families? How do we build our communities? How do we build a Black man to be a Black man? And how do we build a woman to be a woman? Because if, for example, I don't necessarily know how to, June says, we know. I do know some brothers who are clueless. I do know some brothers who do not know that, you need to be able to do some basic things. And I think that can basically be responded or answered by simple communication. You know what? I'd like for you to walk on this side of the street just to make sure that, if there's a car that's going to hit us, they're going to hit you first, right? So therefore, I do want us to be able to definitely expand what we mean by communication. And really going back on a fundamental level, I think the biggest problem, and maybe Georgia can possibly help me with this, the biggest problem with all of this, the history of the Black man, economics, history, racism, the penal system, really comes from communication, right? Really comes from communication. If you don't tell me that buying you flowers for your birthday or every once in a while is important to you, I may not know that, or I may not be intuitive enough to read that. Okay, so therefore, let's bring it to Georgia Bryce to give a closing statement. And I'm also going to ask you, as a therapist with me here in South Florida, I'm also going to ask you to end on sharing your contact information as to how people can reach you, because we can all benefit from, because this right here is therapy for me. I feel that I should pay y'all because this is therapy for me, because
no problem.
there are so many layers to this. So go ahead, Georgia, with your closing statement. And
yeah,
then
I think all my sisters were talking about this idea of standards. I really believe there really is a distinction between standards and expectations. Your standards are your values. Your standards are your values.
That's a good point. Make a differentiation between standards and expectations. It's very, very good.
Issues of integrity, character, trustworthiness, loyalty, all of those things. I said it before, I'll say it again. If you show up fully in capacity with your own self first, and even within the context of relationship, you're always consistently looking to show up fully with yourself in terms of your standards or values, your relationships are going to work. Because both people are focused on the same thing. Both people are focused on being, I want to be better, a better version of me. And because I seek and endeavor to be a better version of me, within the context of the relationship, if both of us are on that same pathway, we're good. You're not gonna have too much problems, right? Your expectations are those 6 feet, 2, I've kind of lowered it. I'm okay with a 5'9" now, stuff off. But those are expectations and those are negotiable. You never veer off from your standards. But if you don't know what your standards or your core values are, it's virtually impossible to show up in a relationship expecting it to work because the other person is gonna know. So that's the note I wanted to end on. And you said to share
your contact.
Okay.
I definitely would love to be able to have the world know who you are and the expertise you bring to the community.
Absolutely. So again, Georgia Bryce, I run a private practice building families according to patterns. I'm specializing in children and family therapy, couples therapy. I seem to be getting a lot more couples now since COVID lockdown. I also do individual therapy as well as Christian counseling. And then for those people who are struggling with addiction, looking to maintain long-term recovery from whether it's substance abuse or alcoholism, and they're looking for wraparound care to continue with therapeutic services, that's something that I also specialize in. And of course, Ted, one of my passions is raising mental health awareness within the community. So I will serve as a keynote speaker. I go into businesses and I do workshops focused on work-life balance, mental health, et cetera, et cetera. I can be found on Psychology Today. That's the premier platform where you'll find all therapists across the United States. I am on Facebook. I live on Facebook. It's my second home. My contact number is 786 471
786 471
471 8312. Again, that's 786 471 8312. And I'm currently serving the population in Florida, the entire state of Florida, as well as New Jersey. And yesterday I got notified that I'm now available to serve in Massachusetts. So if you have anybody in Massachusetts looking for help, please reach out to me. I provide virtual therapy at this point in time because of the COVID lockdown.
That's awesome. And for those of you who would like to be able to get that information, I will include it in the description when I actually update this video, and I cannot thank you enough. All right, so my sister, my buddy since high school and college back in the day, please give us your closing statement.
First of all, I just want to thank all of the ladies on this panel. This has been a very enlightening time, and I feel empowered just by being able to speak with you and have this discussion. It is of the beginning, because there are so many components that need to be discussed. One of the things that I want to leave with is understanding the energy that you bring into the room. And, there's a saying that, before you even walk in, use your stance and your posture. Your energy speaks before you even open your mouth. So it's how we present ourselves.
How you show up.
And how you show up, yeah. And also adding to some what Georgia mentioned regarding knowing yourself and having those levels of self-respect that you bring to the table. And guess what? You don't even have to say it. You say it in your actions. You say it by the way you speak to others. You say it in the way that you wait to be addressed appropriately. My grandparents said that you get more bees with honey than you do with vinegar. And although, these are simple sayings, those principles, they go a long way, even to today. Although the times have changed, the principles are still the same. And I'm born and raised in Brooklyn all my life, but I'm a real old-fashioned woman rather. I'm an old-fashioned woman. And when I mentioned about a man opening the door and walking on the proper side of the street, these are things that I believe that they understand, because we give off that energy from the very beginning. And there's so many different layers to that in regards to relationship that we can talk about. But one of the main things is intention. What's your intention for being in this relationship? As I mentioned before, defining your why is so important, and being honest with that why is the foundation to developing a relationship that makes a difference. So these are components that that's the standard, our morals, our values, our standards, our expectations. All of those things come from how we communicate, how we show up, how we mean to be when we speak, and how we respect ourselves, when we own who we are and we are full within ourselves and we're whole. You cannot come to a relationship and you're not whole. You have to take ownership of who you are, your brokenness, and you have to work on your stuff. Sometimes we have so much baggage that we're unable to really contribute to a real relationship, whatever it may be, partnership, whatever the situation is. We're not able to really give to that because we're broken. And until we're able to manage our brokenness, we're going to continue to see dysfunction. We're going to continue to see dysfunction. I appreciate this conversation because the Black family, I'm family period, but the Black family, because I am a Black woman, is of prime importance to me. It is so important that our Black men know why they're needed and understand that we have hope in them. I have hope in the Black man. We've hurt one another along the way. We've said mean things. We've done horrible things with one another. But guess what? This is the time for healing. This COVID-19, this pandemic, as I mentioned in the very beginning, this is a hard reset. It is time for us to come to the table and rediscover, redefine, re-educate ourselves as to what is important to us as a Black family. So many of us have been stuck in the house with our, our others, with our families, our spouses or whatever. And, what's going to come out of this is people are going to file for divorce, I didn't realize this was the person that I married. But guess what? This is our time to heal the Black family and redefine who we are, our roles, and how we come to the table and how we show up.
Today's Wednesday. You preaching on a Wednesday, taking me to church on a Wednesday. You laying it down. You laying it down, sister. You laying it down.
There's so many things, and I just love this discussion. So I can be, as I said before, I'm with the Department of Education for 25 years. I can be found in social media. Shauna Monique, Shauna_Monique is my Facebook page. I also have a podcast that I began some months ago, and I just recently developed the Facebook page for that. It's called The Experience, Merging Life, Love, and Laughter, and developed that podcast from a desire to telling our stories. I think that conversations like this is something that I would love to develop in one of our podcasts, and I just started doing the podcast virtually as well. So having these conversations, because I feel like we come with a wealth of knowledge and a wealth of experiences, and it's time to heal ourselves by telling our stories and being truthful and honest to who we are, because guess what? We have to get the poison out. Period. We have to get the poison out. And if we don't get the poison out, we will continue to hurt each other and ourselves.
And ourselves.
Right? So The Experience, Merging Life, Love, and Laughter, that is also a Facebook page that I began. So you can like that page as well. And once again, I'm the founder of Fleek Fit, which is it is a program where we inspire women and men on their wellness journey. And I consider myself a fitness influencer because it's so important that, when we are exercising, that we come with our best self. And the only way that we can come as our best self is if we are mentally, physically, and emotionally available. And that comes with being physically fit, mind, body, and spirit.
Thank you so much. June Cole, what is your quote? Thank you.
Fleek Fit is also, I have a Facebook page for Fleek Fit, and Instagram, Get Fleek with Us, all one word, GETFLEEK with us, all one word, Get Fleek with Us.
What I'll ask you to do, LaShawna, and everybody else, is when we finish this, when we close out, to text me all of that information so I can copy and paste into the description, because this will be seen by hundreds and thousands of people, and I want people to reach out and have you guys further your network, because what do they say now? Your network is your net. What is it? Your network is your net worth.
Net worth, yes.
Your net worth. So I'm all about expanding your network for sure. So thank you so very much.
A half-hour workout at 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 6 to 6:30. So you can find me at Fleek Fit and join us. It's having fun, finding a variety of ways to have fitness and fun fitness.
Thank you so very much. June
You're
Cole,
welcome.
thank you so much. June Cole, closing statement, and also how can the public reach you?
Okay. Wow. How can you close after that? Because I think you closed for all of us and then some. But I'm gonna try to squeeze something in here. So I have to say thank you, Ted, for inviting me to this platform. I had a wonderful, wonderful time. It's been very enlightening. I think these conversations really need to continue to take place. It is a need within our community, and when we think about how do we heal from this is where it starts. It starts from a conversation. It starts from us having an open forum to speak upon the things that are troubling us, and to feel comfortable about speaking. And I appreciate the fact that Georgia Bryce is here from that perspective. So therefore, it says, and it speaks to the fact that you thought through, how do we heal? And here's a resource, because a lot of times within the community, we don't have those resources. We hear about people with these degrees and attachments, but we don't know that these resources are here for us, and it's okay to see someone.
Let me stop you, but let me add to what you're saying. Some of us are not even able to see there's a problem.
Well, that too.
Some of us are not even able to see that there's a problem. So absolutely. Oh.
But I think that they don't see that there's a problem because we've been conditioned, if that's the right word, to think that if you have a problem, you're crazy. They're not crazy. We just have things that we don't know how to resolve, or have not been able to resolve those things. And so the resources are out there for us to become better individuals. And thank you for that. I have to say that this conversation about relationships, if you come into a relationship with so many expectations, then you never can see how you can actually relate to someone. Okay? Because that's what a relationship is about. It's taking the time to be able to relate to someone and build that ship that you both can sail on. If you don't take that time to do that, then what are you in? You're on a ship by yourself, sailing across a lonely ocean. And many of us, not me or Ted, but many of us, or many, prominent women today, are sailing on that ship alone and saying, well, it's okay, I don't need you. But you do. We do need our Black men. We do need a relationship that we sail this together. Because at the end of the day, it's not about how fine you look. And yes, we look for that. And it's not about how fit we are. But it's, can you sail this ocean with me in a conversation? Can you sail this ocean with me to build the next empire and dynasty? That's the ship that we should be trying to sail on. But instead, we're trying to sail on the ship of, oh, you fine, but you ain't making no money. I don't care if you fine.
Yes. Come on, Joan. Come on. Girl.
Right now.
Ted.
When all of those things are said and done, can I sit on my front porch with you and rock and talk?
Listen, like my friend says, can I put your feet in your mouth when you get old? Come on here.
All of those other things are irrelevant when you get old and you can't get up. And I'm not talking about physically within the bedroom, because you just can't get up. Can I help you get up? Can we walk back in the house together, holding hands and talking about the times when we were young? That's the relationship. You find those core values that you have and you stick to them. So for me, I'm all about a relationship, because I've been in those before, and I know now that I walk in with no expectation. I see the value in you, and I teach you to be the man for me, not the man for someone else. I can only teach you to be the man for me. I can teach you to open the door even when you don't want to. I can teach you to walk on the outside, and even when you don't want to.
That's
I
right.
can teach you to be everything that I want you to be because I respect you. I know what you come with. I know what your values are. I know how to pull the systems to bring out more in you. I listen to you
That's right.
and I talk to you. I don't yell at you. I don't demand from you, but I listen to you. I listen to your dreams and I help you to make those dreams reality. I think many times we don't listen to our men. They tell us what they want, but we hear what we want to hear. And because of that, we determine they're not good enough for us. And then we change this direction and say, well, let me find someone else. That's because you're looking at yourself. Fix yourself first. These are the issues that you have within yourself. Fix yourself first, and then you can tell someone how they need to fix themselves. If I need my partner to go to the gym, trust and believe. I'm saying, let's take a walk, and we walk to the gym. That's how we end up there. I don't tell him how fat he is, not that he is, but I don't tell him, oh, you fat, go to the gym. I tell him, let's take a walk.
Come on,
So
get that honey. Come on, get that honey.
So we can talk,
Yes.
and from that talk becomes the exercise that we both need. Because I'm not in the perfect shape either. And none of us are in perfect shape, but we're perfect for each other because that's the design that we have come to. So with that being said, I could go on and on, but my name is June Cole. I have a June Cole Creative Agency. We are a branding, marketing, and designing company. We're about to launch an interior design company because I felt that when you are home, your home is really the place that both of you, not just you as an individual, but both of you design. And when you design those homes that both of your names are marked on, both of your names are in, your pictures, your faces, your history, your conversations, then you want to come home. You want to come home to something that you call ours, not yours, but ours. So we are launching a interior design company, and you can find me on Facebook, June Cole Creative Agency, Instagram, June Cole Agency, and I'm also the Creative Operations Director for Afrikin, AFRIKIN, and Afrikin, or if you guys don't know who Afrikin is, that is the plethora of who we are as a people. We go back to the source. And that's the other side of who I am and what I do. And Ted, Ted, you have my contact information. And you should be seeing my design company launch very soon. I've been working really hard on that during COVID because we've been home. And
Right.
home to be that reflective place where you want to turn that key and rest your head. And when you lay down, you wake up feeling just as good as when you lay down.
Thank you. We're going to go to Karen and we're going to close out with Dr. Ferrari. Karen, what is your closing statement and how can the public reach you? You're a businesswoman as well. And I'm just besides myself with the information, but I have a few things I'm going to close out with because this was just more powerful than I expected. We're going on just about 2 hours. This is crazy.
Yeah.
All right. So all right. So Karen, closing statement and how can the public reach you?
I just want to thank you, Ted, for having me on the call or on this Zoom tonight with all these phenomenal women. I mean, I don't know what else there is to say because they've said so much already, but I know that one of the things that we said tonight is that we all have to look within ourselves first before we can even be in a relationship with someone else, or where, you know, we need to look at ourselves first, and we have to look within and make sure that, you know, we are ready instead of jumping into something and you have not, you know, discovered yourself totally first. That you have to do first of all. It's like, you know, the man in the mirror, like Michael Jackson had that song. You have to look at yourself. You have to make sure that you're not bringing in any baggage into any kind of relationship that you're going into. And so once you do that and your conscience is cleared, as she said, your mind, body, and spirit. That's why I meditate every morning. I exercise. I make sure I exercise at least for an hour a day, because that's who I am. I've always loved exercising. And you have to make sure too that your spirit is right. So, I pray. I mean, I'm a Christian. Not everybody's a Christian. Whatever religion you have, you need to tap into that like every day. And, your mind, body, and spirit has to be in one. And once that is taken care of, then you can, give of yourself to someone else. Because, as we know, the Black man has a lot on their plate, most Black men. And if that's, if it's a Black man, I'm not looking for specifically another race, because I love my Black men, of course, that's just me. But I mean, I'm not saying I'm open to everything, I'm open to everyone, but that's me, that's my preference. And so
you're entitled to that. No need to explain, you're entitled to that.
Right. And I know a lot of times, they come with a lot of baggage because of the fact that, as we discussed before, they're coming in with a lot of preconceived notions of what the Black woman is, and especially like a professional Black woman. They said they're too angry, too aggressive. I mean, they even said that of Michelle Obama. You remember? They were saying she's like an angry Black woman. So a lot of times, as I believe, not Mona Lisa, but I believe June was saying, or someone was saying, that, we have to look within ourselves. We have to, take care of our men, speak to them, find out what is bothering them, find out, more about what, so once they're open with us, then we can find out more and realize that, a lot of these problems sometimes can be solved if we just need to speak up to each other and speak about them, just have them tell us what really is bothering them, or maybe it's something from going way back. Maybe it's something that they grew up with. It was just a preconceived notion that if both of you speak about this, you'll be able to resolve the problem. And then that's where, a lot of times, they don't understand Black women, because they think that we're just, miserable, we're just aggressive, we're just, but if both of us if we sit down and
have a conversation,
speak to them and find out, right, have a conversation and find out why maybe they're acting the way they are, or maybe something happened in their previous life, with a previous relationship, this is the reason why they are, acting a certain way, then of course we can, we'll be able to discuss certain things at a higher level, I think, and at a different, we have different perspectives. But I believe that we have values. And as I said, I cannot date someone that doesn't believe in God, because I met a man once, very successful man, and you'd be surprised to know who it is, because he's out there in the limelight and stuff. And he told me, specifically, he does not believe in God. So I said, well, what do you believe in? Are you an atheist? He said, well, I'm not really an atheist, but I believe that when you want something, you just go out there and get it. I just don't believe in, he doesn't believe in say Jesus or God or whatever. So I said, well, I'm sorry. I am a Christian and I believe in God. I don't think this is gonna go. I mean, I just left it there at that. This is it, because I cannot date a man that doesn't have some kind of spiritual connection with
foundation. Right, I got you.
Right. So, that's really what I want to say.
So how can the public reach you if they needed to find you?
I'm on Instagram, Good Any Day is my Instagram name, Good Any Day. And my name is Karen Vaughn on Facebook. And also you can Google me, or, Google my company. It's called KV Connect LLC. It should be up now. I'm not sure if it's actually up, but I do have Karen Vaughn or Karen Vaughn Connect. So you can, if you put that in, you'll be able to pull up my website. And as I said, my LLC is there.
And what kind of services? What kind of services do you provide again?
It's finance,
marketing company.
It's a PR, but I also am with Dorsgar Capital, as I mentioned before, and they're a funding company. So anyone that needs funding,
yes.
any small businesses that did not get the government funding, you could put them on to me.
Dr. Doris Carr, yes. Yes, that is a very powerful brother as well.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Karen.
You have my number, Ted. I don't want to announce it on social media, but you have the number and you can post my cell number, my telephone number. June has it, Mona Lisa has it. So I think it's just the no, I think it's your friend and the therapist that doesn't have it. So I can send it to both of you guys.
Right. I will do that in a group text. And then I think you're a billion. And then Dr. Mona Lisa Ferrari.
Now, Ted, why would you leave me for last while these girls have already done taking my answers? No.
Dr. Mona Lisa Ferrari. And let me, before you even do your closing, there are quite a few people who are with us virtually. And there's something to be said about the person who did not choose the easy route in life. There's something to be said about the trailblazers of our community, and all of you are one. And you, Dr. Ferrari, you know, with the monumental achievements that you've accomplished, I just want to say thank you personally and on behalf of the community. Eventually, my kids will meet you, and you are already one of the chosen role models for my daughters. So just thank you, because it's just so much easier to just sit and watch TV all day, but you chose to not do that.
My shoulders.
So thank you.
Yes, I was just checking my shoulders to see if they're strong enough for me to carry what is bestowed upon me.
Thank you. Closing
Yes.
statements, and how can the public reach you?
Yes, so quickly, I'm going to say it's easy to reach me. If you just type my name, Mona Lisa, with one S, because I tend to get offended when people add two S's. It's MONALISA, Mona Lisa Ferrari. If you go on Facebook, you type that, you should be able to find me. If you Google my name, you should be able to come up with quite a few things. Also on Instagram, I'm under Mona Lisa Ferrari 1. Being the last speaker always puts somebody on the spot, because a lot of the things you would want to say, somebody have already said. But I just want to reiterate some of the points that were mentioned. Out of that, I'm coming up, formulating my own summary. So I've came up with 3 words. CPR. First one is communication. Communication is key. And the second letter is P for professionalism. Now, in my line of profession, I've learned to model what I expect. And this is where I rejoin with my sister, LaShawna, as an educator. One of the things that came out of one of the teaching models was the workshop model. The workshop model tells you, you want your students to do their assignments, be the first to model it. Show them what you're expecting. So we gotta set clear expectations as we enter relationship. We gotta maintain that same professionalism that we maintain on the outside, we also keep within our relationships. The same respect we give to our bosses is the same one we want to give to our partners in a relationship. And I'm gonna use that same P also for partnership. Understand you're entering a partnership. We're not in a wrestling ring to fight. We are 2 professional individuals that are coming into a partnership. And in that partnership, we have imperfections. None of us are perfect. So once we get to reconcile with ourselves first, once we love ourselves first, remember, love thy neighbor as thyself. So please, let's learn how to love ourselves. Let's learn how to get rid of those monsters within ourselves that inhibits the relationships that we sometimes try to get into. The baggages that we have, leave them behind the door so we can enter positively. John is not Joe. Just because they both start with J, they're different.
I like that.
So, and we don't want to also hold to a lot of stereotypes that's out there on the streets, that black men are this, black men are that. Let's be the one as their sisters to regain that level of faith in them, that level of confidence. Give them a chance. While I may not be willing to train a guy from point A, however, I can show him how to treat me. I can model by treating him positively, giving him the respect. I want him to treat me like a queen. You better believe, trust and believe I'm willing to treat him as my king, because that's my king, that's my kingdom. So the level of happiness and joy that I'm willing to receive is the same amount that I'm equally willing to give. Awesome. And the last one is R, again, respect, RESPCT. Huge. If we don't respect our men, they're not gonna respect us in return. Remember, they come into our relationship with enough baggages that allow them to have, you know, enough negativity within themselves. But however, we can always reverse that. I'm not saying we can change them, but we can reverse some of their behaviors, because guess what? By modeling what we expect, okay? From what you said earlier, Ted, we know from our culture that a way to a man's heart is to what?
Food, cook.
Okay. As a typical Caribbean woman, trust me, I don't allow my man to eat out unless we're together. So when you come home, yeah, your hot meal is ready for you.
The meal.
I already tell you from Jump Street, I'm not the maid. Understand, I'm trying to nurture you. So when you walk through the door, oh, I love flowers. I love to surprise my man. I love to put a gift under the pillow, even though it's not your birthday. Mm-hmm. Oh, honey, I got a surprise for you. Mm-hmm. And these are just simple tips of modeling. And I'm willing to be all the above that you're looking for out there. I could be that package. Guys, I don't want you to watch this and think, oh, let me know. I'm not going to give out my number, no. But, but yes, I'm willing to be that package that you're looking for. There are certain things that will say, oh, I won't do that. I will not do that. But we gotta compromise. So we gotta learn to compromise at times in order to maintain our relationships, to save our relationships that are sometimes falling apart. I know COVID has done a lot of destruction, but those of us who are smart and bright, we can manage to seek help out there. Seek professional help. That's why we have these professionals. That's why we have professionals like Georgia Bryce. Let's use her professionalism to restore.
Her skills, right.
Restore. Because sometimes you're leaving a relationship to get into a new one, but you already know the monsters in that person's closet. Mm-hmm. Maybe sometimes we should try to work with what we have.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
If you leave this person for some wrongdoing, trust me, the next person is not going to be any better. So maybe sometimes we gotta make the best out of what we have. I'm not telling anybody to stay in an abusive relationship, but some relationships are worth the fight. It's worth staying around to mend your broken pieces. So please do that. Again, if I were to start to enumerate some of the things that I do, it would take me a whole eternity to describe my role in my community, but I see myself as a contributor within the community where I live, and that's globally so, meaning that by having a show like The Mojo on Sunday, every Sunday, and Perspective Haitienne on Radio Pano, which is a show that happens every Tuesday night for the past 35 years, I use my voice beyond the classroom as an educator to educate my community. Sometimes I don't always know it all, but I bring speakers just like Ted did this afternoon, okay? And I think, again, education is key in everything that we're doing. We're never too old to learn. We're never too old to make a turnaround with our lives. So we can't walk around thinking, oh, because we have all these degrees that we're the smartest. No. So I try to walk around as much as possible with a humble heart, with an open mind, that I can learn from a 6-year-old, because I learned how to speak English from a 6-year-old, okay? I walk with the open mind that as I'm imparting knowledge into my students, that I'm also learning from them. So every opportunity that you get to interact with someone, it's always a learning experience. I'm a lifelong learner. And again, I will, for the sake of time, because again, having to host my own show, I know what that's like when you have a speaker that goes on and on like it's the Energizer battery, and not save time for the host to bring closing statements, because we want to save the best for last. You as the host, I think you have your own flavor that you want to close this show with. So thank you for the honor of having me on your platform, Teddy. And it's again, it's a mutual relationship. I'm expecting you to come to my show as well.
Done deal. And
ladies, my network is also available to you as well. I think I just found myself some new sisters. Thank you, Ted, for those new sisters. I think these are relationships worth keeping. I love all of you. I love your energy. I love the fact that no matter how shysty you came across, just like I am, I know you know what, if you check yourself this afternoon, you probably realize how much hostility we had towards the beginning of the show versus to now.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
A little more mellow. So
Yes.
again, with that Chase quote that I've been using, the right relationship is everything. We're going to keep those relationships right, and it's up to us to make them right. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. Well, social media land, with all of the people who are observing, my dear sisters, in closing, let me just share a few thoughts with you. This platform, the Broward Social Network, I am known to have informal conversations about very important issues. So let me just share these few points. Number one, it's okay to be single. It is okay. It is okay to be single. It's okay for you to be by yourself, to check who you are, check where you're at, check where you're going, to reevaluate, take a minute to kind of figure out what's going on. It's okay to be single. Scientifically, my next point is, I do not believe, this is my humble opinion, I do not believe that we're designed to be alone. I do believe that we are, at the DNA level, we are programmed by the divine architect to pair up for the survival of our species. So therefore, we ought to be in a relationship. Third point, I would not recommend anybody to be unhappy. That's just not healthy. You take two people, same age, one is happy, one is happy, the other one is unhappy. You're going to notice more wrinkles on the face of the person who's unhappy. People who are unhappy will die earlier because there are some physiological shutdown that happen inside your body that will bring you closer to death if you're unhappy. So therefore, everyone should be happy. However, you ought to be careful as to how you define happiness. Be very careful what you think your happiness is. Is happiness going to be a lot of money, or happiness is going to be a compatible person to share life with? So therefore, be careful how you define life. Now, our brothers out there, I'm going to invite you in the future to have a platform to talk about relationships. Brothers, with all due respect to you, please step up. I'm not going to mince any words. Please step up. We have sisters out here, beautiful sisters, educated, financially set, who are hurting because you're hurting them. We are hurting them. Understand that if you if you have a woman, have a child for you, that boy will not know what to do in your absence. That girl will have daddy issues, and she's going to bring her daddy issues into her relationship. And that's going to be a domino effect into the next generation, affecting lives that you weren't even thinking about at the moment when you were trying to father that child. So therefore, think very carefully, both women and men of all communities, before you bring a child into the world, because those experiences is going to have an infinite domino effect on somebody else in a different world. So you got to be very careful about having children. Okay? So this conversation is the beginning of answering the community unrest we have now. If we do not have a solid family, if we do not have a good avenue between the Black man and the Black woman, or men and women, we do not have a family, therefore we do not have a community, and therefore we cannot advance our communities. So it is all interconnected. I'm going to just very humbly ask everyone, as you mature, as you get to know yourself, and you are going to think about who you're going to walk life with, be very careful how you make those choices. Okay, if you wake up after 10 years, you're not happy, you're welcome to make different decisions, but those children should not have to suffer those consequences. Okay, so having said that, I thank all of the people who participated online. I cannot thank you all enough for getting this ball rolling. It's been some couple of weeks trying to set this up, but I just kind of threw this at the last minute, and Dr. Ferrari was able to throw together the wonderful flyer at the last minute. I cannot thank you. Georgia Bryce, I love you so much. Karen, I love you so much. June Cole, I love you so much. Dr. Ferrari, I've adopted you as my sister. I love you. And LaShawna, I've always loved you. And thank you so much for being so good to me, because you are part of the element that makes me the man that I am today. So thank you so very much. Okay. I'm going to wish you all a wonderful evening before I start crying. So, and I look forward to us having a part 2 and a part 3. Much love. Please text me the information you want me to share with the universe. And I love y'all and thank you so very much. And I'm hoping to see everybody again next time when we have a part 2 to this very important conversation. Thank you all and good night.
Good night. Thank
Good night.
you.
Hey,
Thank
good night, ladies. It was nice.
Night.
Good
Good night. Thank you.
Good night.